The World Health Organization estimates that each year approximately 1 million people take their own life. That's one death every 40 seconds. Experts predicted numbers would peak in 2020, but no one could have imagined the devastation brought on by COVID-19. During the coronavirus pandemic, you may experience anxiety, sadness, and loneliness. Existing mental health conditions, including severe anxiety and major depression, may worsen. If you're feeling hopeless, contemplating self-harm, or you're concerned about someone else, I'm here to tell you there is hope. A Mission for Michael is dedicated to helping clients achieve complete inner and outer transformation. Mission for Michael is the premier resource for intensive mental health treatment in Southern California. With an astonishing 2-to-1 client-to-staff ratio, each client in their facility receives individual care 24 hours a day, overseen by a team of all doctorate or master's level clinicians. With a focus on evidence-based treatment, along with personalized and compassionate care, they offer mental health treatment that can change lives. If you're suffering from mental illness or you're concerned about a loved one, go to amfmtreatment.com. Again, that's a mission for Michael, amfmtreatment.com, or call 866-581-4401. Again, that is 866-581-4401. With so much focus on keeping ourselves and our loved ones safe and healthy, it's easy to forget that most of us are going to experience things like allergies, colds, possibly even the flu. So, reminding you, proper hydration is crucial for all of these things. Remember, even slight dehydration can make you feel like you're getting sick, and none of us need that anxiety right now, that's for sure. That's where Hydrolyte comes in. Longtime fans will remember my obsession with Hydrolyte, which is simply the best oral rehydration product I've tried. I'm even more excited to introduce their brand new single-serve powder sticks. Simply pour 1 powder stick into a glass of water. They recommend 7 ounces. The powder dissolves almost instantly, creating the perfect balance of sodium, glucose, and water. Delivers up to 4 times the electrolytes of your typical sports drink. The other great news about Hydrolyte's new powder sticks, they're 100% all natural. No artificial flavors, colors, or sweeteners. They're available in flavors like orange and lemonade, and they taste great. Hydration is crucial, and Hydrolyte is fastest and easiest way to stay ahead of it. Get your supply of Hydrolyte powder sticks now at hydrolyte.com/DRDREW. Again, that's HYDRALYTE.com/DRDREW, and then use that code Dr. Drew 25 at checkout.
Hey, everyone. It's a dose of Dr. Drew.
That's us, waiting on y'all to come on in. Thank you for joining us.
I need a sound check. Caleb was here yesterday.
So if
I think I got it right, though.
Okay, so if everyone could reassure Susan that
It'll
the
take a
sound
second.
is good, we'll wait for you to come in.
There's a lag.
Wait for you to come in on the,
Yo,
on the
Andrew.
stream here.
Yo, Andrew.
Andrew Ashkazvili is here. We'll give you guys a chance to tell me whether you can hear me or not. Okay. Oh, they're good. How about that? So sorry I'm in a tie today. I just have to run.
Sorry.
I had to film something before this and I have to film something immediately after, so I just got to do my thing.
Popular.
Yeah, it's just a busier day, that's all. Oh, I'm a little low.
You're low? Okay. They always say that. No, let me fix it.
Okay. Good sound, everyone's saying, except for the one person saying it's a little low.
Yeah. Yeah,
right,
am I low? Am I low or just Drew? Because
sound is good.
Okay, I'm gonna make Drew a little louder.
A little low.
Boop boop. Okay, that should be better.
What did you guys think of the guest yesterday? Think they're good now. They were a lot of fun, I thought.
I took their banner down, so.
I'm trying to get them onto Fox 11 too, because they're doing some scamming shows there.
Well, tell everybody who it was who wasn't here.
So it is. I can never remember how they characterize. What do they call themselves?
The Trilogy
guys. The
Trilogy Media.
Trilogy Media, and it was
Alex and Indy. I don't know. I can't remember. I took their banner down. I would put it up. I'm sorry.
Ashton. Alex and Ashton.
Yeah, I was close. It was A. No, I'm too high. Okay.
Art and Ashton. Art and Ashton. They were
Ashton Art.
They were a lot of fun.
Isn't that terrible? We don't know their names. They don't like advertise themselves with their names.
We'll get them. We're just getting to know them. So
they advertise as the Trilogy Media guys.
Aren't as cool as mommies, Tom says. All right, Tom's.
Dex and Weasel.
What's that?
That's their characters.
They have lots of characters. There was also Erie Rose and Rodney and all kinds of characters they were into. So again, good guys with good intent and really a great community, and we appreciate having them and the squad stop by. So that was nice.
Yeah, that was fun.
It was good.
Good show. Ask Dr. Drew is back.
Do you guys have
Wednesday.
questions today for me? Because a lot of kind of stuff flying around, and I'm wondering if you guys have any comments, any thing you've noticed that you want to try to clarify. Ooh, Melbourne, how are you? Cindy Lou watched them today. Great. Did you learn anything from them? I learned a bunch talking to them yesterday. I really look forward to them getting documentary cameras together and going in and having at these assholes that run these scams.
Look at the camera, Drew. You're always looking down.
I am looking at the input here
But
to
when
see
you
what
make
the
a point, we want to see your beautiful face. And also, we want to shout out to our new sponsor, A Mission for Michael. That was the ad at the beginning,
Yes.
and we really appreciate your sponsorship.
excellent program. I've spoken to the medical people there. Really very impressive group. So I meant everything I say. I mean everything I say in that little advertisement. Good group to be a part of. We're happy to have them in.
Yeah.
George Clark says, vaccine by November 1st. I'm going to bet there is. And Andrew Ashkasvili, what do you think? I mean, the way they are going at such warp speed, it seems to me that if you're the administration and you're paying for all this accelerated vaccine development, and at least two of them are going to, Andrew, I'll talk about the steroids in a second. So it seems to me at least two of them are going to look so good that they will probably want to be opening the placebo limb of the study. At least they'll have an argument to do so, or may have already done so. And as such, you're going to see people accelerating the manufacturing and the move to market. I had my flu shot yesterday, everybody, which is a reminder we should all have the flu shot. Please get that.
People were mad at you too.
Yeah, we had weird social media feedback for taking a flu vaccine. Have you all not learned anything about? My body, my choice. Have you not learned anything about viruses through this whole experience? Is that something that you guys don't get? Christina, you're not going to get the vaccine. That is your prerogative. I am certainly not particularly interested in the government mandating everything that we do, especially something new like this. But I would certainly advise it. I'm going to take it as soon as I can get it, as soon as it's available. Tom Cigar, is the flu shot better to get in late September, or does it really matter? Flu shot, right now, we want everybody to get it as fast as possible. There's already been flu deaths here in Southern California, and we're expecting an early flu season, and we don't want flu and COVID going simultaneously. So normally I'd give it in October, November with an anticipated peak in March. Now we're trying to get it going right away. I had mine done yesterday. Good, Suzanne, get your flu shot. That's good work. And by the way, over 65, it's a little bit controversial whether you should be getting the high dose, the double antigen vaccine, or the lower dose. I've tried to figure out how to recommend to people. I'm essentially leaving it up to them. The CDC is unclear about whether they're recommending it. It's generally advised for people over the age of 65. Definitely if you're significantly older, 70, 75, your immune response to the vaccine is a little less vigorous, so it is a good idea to get that heavier dose. So steroids are in the news again. I think I have that study right here. Evidence for steroids in severe COVID grows stronger. So let me see I haven't read this study yet. Administering steroids, people, blah, 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 critically ill receive systemic steroids. So it's not Decadron only, it's all systemic steroids. We're less likely to die over a 28-day period. The more severe cases of COVID I have treated, I have used steroids early, and they worked. Just been my experience. That was before we knew all the stuff about the cytokine storm and the RANTE system and all these IL-6 inhibitors, all the other things we can do. But it's pretty clear the steroids are useful. Here's a quote. This is from, I think it's from the CDC, World Health Organization. We recommend systemic steroids for the treatment of patients with severe and critical COVID-19. We suggest not to use corticosteroids in the treatment of patients with non-severe COVID-19 as the treatment. I'm not quite sure what they mean by not severe. Again, does somebody have to be short of breath, hypoxemic, septic, what do they mean? So in the studies included, Andrew, to answer your question, it's a meta-analysis. It's just a meta-analysis on steroids, and it's looking good. So that's what it looks like. I'm not reading the story carefully, but that's what the headline was. Can I look into looking for and thinking about kids in school? Okay. How many of you were confused by Dwayne Johnson's video yesterday, The Rock. He put out a video that was baffling, to say the least. And the reason I'm bringing him up is it points out something about children and COVID-19. So the basic setup was his whole family got COVID. So his wife, his 2 daughters, who are 5 and 7 or something, or 3 and 7, got COVID-19. He did an 11-minute video talking about how horrifying it was. But in the middle of the vaccine, he suddenly goes, yeah, my daughter had a stuffy nose. My daughters didn't get sick. And, well, my wife and I got a little sick. But anyway, it was horrifying. I was like,
it was the scariest thing he had ever been through in his entire life.
I had H1N1, and I was so sick.
It is scary, but
I couldn't watch television.
How?
I was so sick.
How scary?
Right.
How? Like
he didn't. I think he was scared that he was going to get sick or going to get the complications, which I'll grant you is a little scary. But the scariest thing you've been through in your life, you start
he's
to
so
look.
Adorable. I love The Rock.
This is why I hate him.
But now he's bummed me out. It's like really he goes, this is the worst thing. Like, is he afraid to get a shot? Like, what the hell?
And for the record, I don't hate him. I'm just making a joke. I
you hate him because I like him.
Right. But I just thought it was just bizarre. Yeah. Here, Mike Pelosi says Rock got pulled into the propaganda bandwagon. Yeah. He just went on and on about how horrifying it was, but he didn't even get. Let me tell you something. The excess deaths from H1N1 is pretty much mirroring COVID right now. Now, to be fair, because COVID is more infectious, we had to get on it more to keep it more in the zone of H1N1. But H1N1 was a killer, man. That was brutal. If I were him, let's say I'd done a video about my H1N1 after, this is 10 years ago, 2009, I would have gotten on and said, I thought for sure I was going to die. I made my wife run me to the hospital. I've never been so sick in my life. I could not pick my head up. I was so sick I couldn't watch TV. It was just literally too much for me to do anything. And I kept calling the doctor saying, I am so toxic. This does not seem right to me. And I think I probably, in retrospect, had a cytokine storm, but it didn't affect my lungs, so I was sort of okay through it. Bradykinin storm theory is a new theory out there. I saw that, Leopold. I was not that taken by that theory. Joshua, no, he does not think this is a hoax. He thinks that young, healthy people were played. In other words, go look at the CDC data. I guess I have to walk through it. The CDC data on that stuff that said that there's 6% of the population had only COVID and 94% had coexisting conditions. And the average for those coexisting conditions was 2.6%. The problem is, if you look at that data, it's a mess. It really has more to do with how we fill out death certificates in the United States. Do you know that doctors do not get any guidance, any education, anything on death certificates? All we do is try to figure it out based on the guidelines we're given. And then when it comes back to us, it usually comes with suggestions from the health department, and it has woefully little to do with the reality of the death. In other words, if you put cardiac arrhythmia and then cardiovascular death, you'll get through every time. And guess what? That's how everybody dies. It doesn't have anything to do with why you ended up with a cardiac arrhythmia and cardiopulmonary arrest. That could be a lot of things. It could be a gunshot wound to the head. But so they don't really they just sort of give you these criteria where it goes, this is related to that, is related to this. It's very vague and very poorly maintained. And this data that came out of the CDC really bore that out. So in that data, they had 94% of people with COVID dying of, they included in their hypertension, obesity, hypercholesterolemia, all the things we know that are risk factors. They also, so those are the things that lead to the complications. That's a direct relationship to the complications. Mixed in with that was the complications of being sick. ARDS, pneumonia, renal failure, liver inflammation. All those things were also listed. So we had the risk factors for COVID complication, and we had the consequences of COVID. And to say that somebody just died of COVID in the context of all these other complications of COVID makes literally no sense. So most of the death certificates were COVID, ARDS, renal failure, sepsis. If you just put COVID at top, you'd be saying the same thing. So it's just a mess. It's just a mess. The only thing that did come out of that data is very clearly, if you're over the age of 75, you got problems. And if you're under the age of 54, your probability of complication as death is remote, very unlikely. So back to The Rock saying that his kids didn't even get sick. There have been a total of 300 deaths in children and teenagers, a total.
In the world?
In the United States. So, yeah, Adam said we were pussies for falling for the fact, thinking that he's calling out somebody like The Rock, saying you shouldn't have been scared because you're young and you aren't sick. So why? Don't be
He's
scared.
lean, man.
Yeah, don't be scared. Well, Susan, I could get on some steroids too. You know? I could do that if it weren't for my prostate cancer.
I'm just goofing around with you.
I could do that. I want to do that. I would love to do that.
No.
What? Why not? You like him. Why would you like me better if I?
There's nothing worse than an older gentleman who's all roided out. It just looks weird because your body's really big, and then you have
An old face.
Yeah, it's just weird. It doesn't seem right.
Well, he will probably stay on steroids until he fits that bill. So.
There have been a lot of Photoshop pictures of you like that, and it's not my favorite picture.
Ah, okay. So anyway, Adam did get in a lot of trouble for the following tweet. I don't know if you guys saw it, but I will tell you.
You're gonna add to the fuel?
Why not? It was actually.
You like that it's him and not you this time.
Yes. Right? Well, because he doesn't care. My good friend Ryan Holiday texted it to me. Turns out, this is Adam. Turns out people dying from COVID are either old, sick, or both. How many of you pussies got played, and who's going to get played the next time?
Uh-oh.
So there you go. What do you think? Tell me on the thread here. I'm all ears. I have to read it for TYRUS, too, when he gets here.
Sure, check out the Adam and Drew show on iTunes.
Yeah, there you go. So back to school. So 300 kids dying in the country. You see in somebody in a household where everybody gets it, the children have no symptoms. That's what you should anticipate. Kids don't get sick from this virus. However, they probably can transmit it. So the staff around the kids does need to be concerned about it. So that's the issue. Flipping Birdies agreed it's not a hoax. But what he's saying is that the panic porn framed it in a way that made everybody, even somebody like The Rock, scared to death. And that's sort of silly. Patrick, yes, I should have done roids when I was younger, when I had a chance. You're right. But you know what? I'm worried about the long-term effects of those drugs. I've seen terrible stuff. What's the matter?
Sorry.
What's up?
Something happened.
With the chat. Well, I've got it here. So. C. Perez, interesting. A T6 paraplegic, so he's from essentially the mid-chest down. He's a paraplegic. He had COVID-19, but mild symptoms. I
lost the chat for a second, but people are still chatting.
Yeah. Oh, they're still. Don't worry. Wow, you guys are all over the place today. On Dr. After Dark, Christina and I talked about the death of Hyperreal. Yes. Well, I've been reading. I think it was on this episode, she brought this guy up, Jean Brouillard, which is the basis essentially of the Matrix, and sent me that book and makes me read it. And I can get through about a paragraph every 10 minutes. It's pretty dense. Les Français.
Are you still doing that silly shirt?
Which one?
The one with you and Lennon on it, or?
Oh yeah, we're going to do some kind of. We're
down.
doing a rational recovery shirt, something from some sort of vintage revolution iconography with me or Christina, with the profile. I looked it up yesterday when Susan was giving me crap about it.
They haven't been sending me the banners.
Okay. Brianna, do I believe psych medication helps lead to other drug use? No, it actually reduces the risk if properly prescribed, but the benzodiazepine and the opiate class obviously become the drugs of choice. So you have to be very, very careful with that. 200,000 Americans killed by H1N1. That's right. Samuel, you don't understand why I keep comparing it. We have 200,000 Americans. 200,000 Americans died of H1N1, right? And 1 billion people got infected. Why are you being facetious? Help me with that. Justin Hart on the show, data analyst, have been looking at since February. What does he say, Andrew? Tell me what his sort of take is, and I'll think about it. COVID spreads when an infected person. Nope. No, Brian. Old sick or leronlimab deficiency. Very funny. Yeah, so I'm a little confused by your data here. So you say H1N1. I see what you're saying. H1N1 killed 500,000. Right. H1N1 killed less Americans than this one has, and it killed primarily young people, while this one killed primarily old people. That is factually true. And the comparison is just a comparison. It's not meant to. It's just to help people understand that they went through a pandemic and didn't really even know it, and now people are scared to death of it when they're at no risk of complications. Okay. Are vaccines made chicken eggs? Some have albumin. Yes, they do. Andrew thinks the way we do on all the numbers. So he's sort of like so Andrew Ashkazvili, you're saying, is sort of like Berenson, sort of calling into question things or looking at things through a different prism, which is interesting. Should I be worried that my white blood cell count is 3.7? Not necessarily, though, unless you had COVID, because COVID, a low lymphocyte count, is associated with trouble.
Thank you, Leopold, for the super chat. No question. Just want to shout out.
What are the typical complications if someone is COVID positive and has terminal RCS? I'm wondering what you mean by RCS, because those acronyms can mean all kinds of things. Obviously, you have a terminal condition of, maybe being funny, maybe? But anyway, any terminal condition is obviously going to be made considerably worse by any sort of viral infection. Cerebral palsy does not, Aaron, to my knowledge. In fact, they just took asthma off the list. So asthma is no longer considered a risk factor for COVID-19. The risk factors are age. The first top 3 risk factors are age. Then it goes sort of metabolic syndrome, hypertension, vascular pathology, obesity, inflammatory obesity, that kind of thing. It's a clear syndrome. It's very, very clear who gets in trouble with this. And the age group that gets in trouble with it. Okay. My only beef is Fauci in the 80s. Yeah, well, I was part of the... So Tom Segar he has a beef with Fauci because he scared him to death. Tom's got scared to death about the AIDS epidemic. And I was part of that, man. I was part of the chorus that was out there scaring people quite intentionally, quite consciously. We kind of felt we had to. That we were not able to get people to change their behavior unless we scared them. That is where I learned about the nature of public health messaging. And if you overstate, or if you're inconsistent, or you're exaggerate, or you're hypocritical, you lose people for good. They don't want to hear anything you have to say. And that's what's happening in California. As you go around the country, it's so funny how different each state is with this COVID epidemic. I got to tell you, in some states, you barely know what's happening. And there's a lot of good mask wearing, but the mask wearing is self-generated rather than the government demanding it of people and closing businesses. I mean, think about this hair salon thing here in Southern California. No, in Southern California, LA County, they're allowing hair salons to open at 25% of capacity. Where did that number come from? Why not 50%? And then study it, see how it goes. Every scientific study in something like a hair salon, where there were 2 women that cut hair for a week, 140 people exposed, 0 transmission. Well, there's a scientific study. What is this so-called science that they're relying on? It's
Why
too
can't
much.
my nail lady open
Why
her
can't your
shop?
nail lady open?
I think we're gonna get on a suit for her. I talked to Mark Garagos.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I was like, this is like, it's sort of like discriminatory against the underlings of the cosmetology world. Like, you
Yes,
don't need
I
as
agree with
many
that.
hours to
It
be a
is
masseuse or-
disgusting overreach by the government with no justification. Anyway,
Oh, I'd be suing the city. I swear.
Renegazzo, sure, he or she had
Give me a
coronavirus in March, lost sense of taste and smell. Lost in taste and smell is a very strong indicator that you had corona. It's come back slowly, only at 75%. Will it ever come back to 100%? It typically does, though I have heard of cases where it does not. But it typically does. How is the empirical data point? Can I explain why there are studies from MIT that show there's evidence of aerosol spread? Leopold, there is not a study that shows there is aerosol spread. There is studies that shows the virus is present in aerosols. Zero evidence, and I mean zero. In fact, all the evidence is to the contrary, that it does not actually transmit that way. Now, obviously, it's a hard thing to study because you'd have to expose somebody to aerosols with the virus and see if they get it. Everything suggests droplet. Everything. Now, could it not? Is it impossible for it to be on aerosols? Well, we know it is aerosolized, so some of it may be spread by aerosol. In particular, there's a lot of aerosol, like in an ICU or something. Okay, makes sense. But everywhere else, that's why the masks work, because the aerosol is not the issue. That's why the planes don't transmit it. Aerosol is not the issue. It's close contact, droplet spread, period. I mean, not exclusively, but that is the predominant means of transmission. So don't, just because it's present in aerosols, think how different it is than measles. Measles is present in aerosol. If you sneeze in a grocery store, where you sneezed for the next 2 to 4 hours will remain infectious. And everybody who's prone, who's not had the vaccine, not previously had measles, who walks through that aerosol will get the measles. There is nothing like that with COVID. Nothing, nothing, nothing. So that's why I say it's that's an aerosol illness. That's how aerosols are transmitted. Very infectious. In 5 years, when we look back, oh boy, Lloyd, you want to get me in trouble. Here we go.
What?
All right.
What happened?
In 5 years, well, let me get all of your opinions on the chat stream here. In 5 years, when we look back at COVID 2020, what do you think will be our reaction? What do you think people will be saying? Let's say 10 years. No, 5 years. Okay, 5 years.
How about as a historian?
Yeah. So what will people be saying about this time period? Not the people necessarily even who lived through, well, it has to be the people who lived through it. It's only 5 years out.
But how will the history books look at it?
Vince Corolla will get the vaccine for sure.
Yes, you'll make sure of it.
A different question about the history books. First, let's answer how we'll look at it in 5 years, and then we'll answer the history book question. What do you think people will be thinking? Nursing homes are suffering. Biggest self-inflicted economic downturn, Travis says. Of course. Overly reactive, Cindy Lou says. Big nothing burger, Glenna says. But it's not a nothing burger, right? Because it was highly infectious. It is deadly in elderly populations at risk with risk factors. A year of paranoid and panic. Eric, will we go further than that? I think we might look at it like we lost our minds collectively. I really think we might look at and we'll be examining how bad our insanity was and what the nature of the insanity was. Anybody, Susan, you agree with me?
Well, that coupled with how politics were
right.
in the
It's all
midst
part of it. It's all part of it. That the press, that somehow we almost became cult-like in our camps. That truly cultishness is developing now, and we became insane. We became just absolutely, and then we
threw a lot of money at the cure, and a lot of money was wasted, but it helped.
A lot of money was wasted?
I mean, like they have all these extra, what do you call them? The ventilators. They have.
I think we actually did.
Poor Trump, he ran out. He got these ventilators. He was proud of himself, and now they've got a stockpile. I think we did a pretty good job in this country. It was certainly not perfect, but we got the ventilators we needed. Nobody was out of ventilator. I'm just medically looking at this. We came up with, we improved our ability to treat this thing fantastically. I mean, so fast. I mean, you got to remember, it took 1,000 years to figure out what caused syphilis. This is fast, man. I mean, the only thing we've done that as fast was HIV and AIDS, but that took about 8 years to really get it under control, don't forget. And
We got hypnotized, Miss Kaylee. That's really interesting. Who hypnoptized us?
Well, they got The Rock too.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you were going to look at how insane we were, we're going to go, look at our superhero. Oh my God, I got a virus. I got a virus. That's what you'll look at that video and go, oh my God, that guy was scared too?
Sure
how did they scare him?
They probably got the worst bug they ever had, and they heard that it could get worse and that they could be in the hospital, and that's scary, especially if you're raising kids and you have to be isolated and nobody can come help you and you have to do it yourself while you're sick. It's like when I had the chicken pox twice. I had to stay home and take care of my 3 kids with the chicken pox for a month. Nobody wanted to be around me.
CEO of Fifth Corner Records says it's a mental infection that was spread through the media. Well, that's yeah, I think we're going to look at ourselves as totally somehow we became mental, to use a term that I think the popular culture would understand.
That was a good question, by the way.
For a couple of years. A very good question. Now, the other question is, how will history look upon this? So when we're all dead and gone, and we're looking back at this period the way we looked at the 1918 flu, I have a suspicion we might bury it. We might bury it, much the way the 1918 flu was sort of buried. I don't know. Kelly Gallagher, asthma is no risk now. It's officially not a risk for COVID complication.
We can send a ventilator over to your house. We have extras.
That's true. Wow, you're funny.
I'm a problem solver.
What are you and a shit stirrer. Okay, what should the ICU protocol be for a 73-year-old intubated testing positive? Well, usually most hospitals have some sort of protocol for Decadron, remdesivir, and convalescent plasma. Those things are approved and ready to go, and there should be some sort of criteria for whom gets it and in what order. The Decadron, the 6 days of Decadron, is pretty much universal. Of course, obviously, it also depends what else is going on with this case. If it's an intubated case, Liv-Mar, I always worry that there's going to be iatrogenic pneumonia because you have now an open conduit to the lungs, and so some sort of broad spectrum antibiosis always seems appropriate to me. And then you want to get into some of the research medication if you can. It seems to me, Dr. Yo interviewed a woman who was at UCLA and got leronlimab, was dying, was literally at the end stage of COVID, and reversed with the Ranty system being turned. So there's lots of things out there. I'm sure there's more than just that, depending on where you are and what you're being treated with and what the research is in that area. Brian, COPD, high risk for complications. They're not on the risk category. Certainly, if you have COPD and you to be intubated, it's a more serious issue. And I would imagine the same thing is true of asthma, but I think what they're saying is it's not an independent risk factor for complication. So, but if you get complication, you're going to get into more trouble quickly. Let's see. Oh, this is interesting too. Cam K. Recent report says that 1/3 of Big Ten athletes got COVID, have myocarditis. No, I think they said 2/3. So this was Andrew, if you're still with us, look at that data. It's fascinating.
I wonder if The Rock had any side effects or is having any. I mean, maybe there's still stuff going on we don't know about.
He said, I'm totally normal. Oh. He says that in his interview.
So we got another live chat. I don't know who that.
Super chat? DD.
Oh, Cindy Lou. Thank you.
DD. Wait,
here's a question.
Please talk about rapid testing with paper strips printed on monoclonal antibody. I agree with you that should be. I have a feeling, DD, that the sensitivity and specificity of that test is too low. And I think it's around 85%. And my bet is the only reason we're not doing it is legal problems. My bet is people are afraid of getting sued if they were not diagnosed by these strips and ended up having the virus and ended up transmitting it. So I'm betting you, because the product is good, the idea is good, why aren't we doing this? We should be using these spit tests. They're like $1 a piece. We should be using throughout the day for everybody. We would know who had this thing for the most part. But that 15% that we miss, I bet there's a legal liability there, and I bet that's why it's not being rolled out. That's my bet.
Chad Quackenbush has a super chat.
Thank you, Chad. I didn't see.
It says, Dr. Drew, am I crazy? But I want to get my family and myself the vaccine as soon as possible. Everybody says, wait. I say, why? I trust the science. My wife wants me to wait a while, to vaccinate the kids.
Before I answer
say
that,
let's go. I don't think kids have to be vaccinated, right?
I tend to agree with you on that, Susan, because they don't get sick. Andrew, who said no? Who said he made a mistake? You said somebody made a mistake. You're talking about the guy at the Big Ten thing? If that's true, I still have something to say about that. But so I agree with your wife a little bit that I agree with you and your wife. I think you can have both positions. You can be like me and you.
If you're high risk.
And go run to get the vaccine. I'm going to do that.
Well, we're
if you
old.
want to wait, we have some risk. Andrew, what was he wrong about? Was he wrong about the myocarditis entirely or wrong about the numbers of myocarditis? I need to know that before I make my comment here. The doctor at Penn State, yes. But how wrong was he? That there was no myocarditis or that there was like only a few cases? So I'd run to get the vaccine. Your wife wants to see a track record on a large scale. I'm sympathetic to that. I get that. And I you got to make your own choice on this. I don't think the government necessarily should be making the choice for us.
Well, I think the order is the first responders, physicians, obviously, teachers, and then comes people with high risk, older people, probably people who have pre-existing conditions, and then they say regular people and kids.
Leopold, that's a great study you're putting about the possible aerosolized outbreak from an air system. That's what people are worried about, so they're looking for that very carefully. But the evidence, maybe that will turn out to be something. So when I say there's no evidence, maybe there'll be this one study, and perhaps you're right. But I still think every study I've seen that is sort of prospective-y, it just doesn't bear out. It just does not bear out. And maybe there's something about the ventilation system in that Chinese building that we'll understand that put things at risk. Andrew Ashkashvili, I'm talking to you again. He said this time there's been no cases. What? There have been no cases of myocarditis? He came out and said that 2/3 of the athletes had myocarditis. That's crazy.
Bless you.
Why do I only sneeze 45 minutes into this? It's the weirdest thing.
No, you always sneeze at 4 o'clock every day.
Just before 4 o'clock. It's before.
10 to 4.
I know. This is exactly when I sneeze every time. It's weird.
It's God.
Plasma COVID stuff. I'm trying to put multiple published medical sources, not media clips. Patrick, I'm not sure what you're talking about. The convalescent plasma is an excellent treatment. It just is. Did we miss some opportunity to study it more? Maybe. Same thing could be true of the vaccines. We're rushing it to market and missing opportunities to study it more. That's the nature of the environment we're in right now.
TYRUS was supposed to be here at 3:30. I think something happened.
Uh-oh. Like what?
I don't know. I hope he's okay.
Prone position better for intubated.
He's ghosting us.
Yeah, prone position is also something that most people do intubated or otherwise. That is true. That is part of that protocol we were talking about in the ICU.
Flipping birdies.
And then again the steroids and what steroids and what dose and how long. That's all very complicated.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I was going to say that was very interesting that if those athletes got myocarditis, I mean, that's a fascinating. What I was going to speculate.
What's myocarditis?
It's a viral inflammation of the heart muscle, viral infection of the heart muscle. And I was going to speculate that perhaps more viruses do that than we know. We just don't look around for it.
How do we know The Rock didn't get that too?
Turns out nobody's getting it, according to Andrew.
Oh.
So
thank you, Andrew.
Yeah. Doctor apologized for any confusion he may have caused. He got the whole Big Ten canceled. Yes, he did.
Oh my
yes,
God.
he did. Yeah.
God.
Crazy. There's a lot of. How did these things get going? How does this happen, everybody?
I don't know.
Thank you, Emily Niemeyer. Appreciate that.
It's like the communist scare, It's like we're, the commies are coming.
This again is the insanity that we're into, and I think again, looking back in 5 years,
that's happening too.
We will
actually,
be shaking.
We should be more worried about that.
Our head. So Kelly, whoa, hold on a second. You had myocarditis. Now we do know that myocarditis happens with COVID. What was your myocarditis due to? And did you have any cardiomyopathy following that? That's the big dreaded complication of myocarditis. Let me know.
There are terrible complications.
Miss Kaylee, you think I'm on fire today?
Yes, you are.
Really? I don't feel it. Weird.
Uh-oh, there's TYRUS. I'm stuck in the worst traffic. I can do it from my truck.
Yeah, do it on the phone. Do it in the car.
It's all right. He's just popping by. We kind of moved him around this weekend.
First, I want Kelly Gallagher to tell me about her myocarditis. That's a dramatic story. Myocarditis, the big problem with myocarditis when you have it is you can have a sudden cardiac arrhythmia and die. That's the scary thing. Now, it's not super common in a healthy person with, any kind of intrinsic stuff, but it's a pretty scary issue. Kelly, where are you? I was 3. Okay, that's a different thing. That's a different thing. Let's bring the great Tyrus up here, shall we?
Let's bring the great Tyrus up here, shall we? Hey, how are you, boss?
Hey, man. I hear. Ooh, you're loud and clear. This is good. There.
Ooh, you're loud and clear.
What have you been refereeing, dude?
We can't refereeing, dude.
Turn your volume down a little bit.
A referee. Oh, just a little bit. Okay. All right, there you go. How's that?
You look like you got zebra stripes on, like you've been reffing a football game or something.
No, that's it. You know, I appreciate your squareness, but it's an Adidas track outfit.
See?
Half your lifetime, but it's all good.
It's as square as it
close,
gets.
So close. Yeah, that's good though. You know.
So how did the storm go for you guys?
We had very little effects. We had some slight wind, some rain, but nothing out of the ordinary. St. Charles got hit, I think, the hardest. But in terms of life-ending storm as we know it,
right?
It fell, at least on our end, it fell short.
Damn. So, you mean it was another panic porn,
which we talk about.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a hurricane. We still have to be vigilant. We still have to be aware of what's going on. But, you know, they literally made it sound like there was going to be a movie made out of it afterwards.
Right. Right.
You know, telling us that this is the end.
And it was bad in some places. I mean, it was you know, parts of Louisiana and Texas, but not what they were saying, right?
But not what they were saying, right? No, it was about a third of what they predicted. It was about a third. I think they said it was going to be 9 to 15 feet flooding. I think it was around 3, and 3 is still bad. Like 3, you know, is still bad, but it's kind of like, with the exception of storms, I don't ever think the headlines are, you know, even close to the actual, like, just when you see it. As soon as I see breaking news, I roll my eyes now.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. Somebody told me that NBC's coming out with a new news station that's supposed to be moderate. Is that true?
Is that true? I have no clue. I thought they were already supposed to be moderate.
I guess I don't know who is anymore. I really I'm lost. What's caught your attention lately?
Still dealing with all the back and forth over the shooting. Still kind of, it's really made me aware of how tribal, you know, how much of a tribe everyone is.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
People can't be wrong. Facts really don't matter, and just meeting in the middle is really difficult for people.
I am so with you. I'll meet you there.
I'll meet you there. You know, yeah, we'll be the 2 squares there. I'll bring you a track jacket. But it's just it's amazing to me how people will take. You know, I was really trying to think about, like, what has changed so much over the years, and I really think it's just come down to everybody talks, everyone has a talking point, everyone has something to say, but it's just loud, and they're not saying anything. Everyone talks, they're not saying that. No one listens, and everyone has to be heard, even if you have no expertise on the subject.
Yeah,
you'll talk anyways, because like the media, all you really need is a good headline. You don't need anything else.
Right.
So we have all these online geniuses and Twitter geniuses, or whatever you want to call them, that all they do is just spew misinformation or negativity. As long as they get it out, you know, you're an expert on everything with no experience.
Well, let me ask this. The mayor of Portland is blaming Trump for all the violence and the rhetorical excesses. Is it him? Is it Trump derangement syndrome? Is it none of the above? What do you think?
Well, first of all, he should be blaming the people who are actually doing it. It's their fault. We have had problems in this country for well over 200 years between the police department and the way that African-American men like myself have been treated. That's no one president is responsible for that. If you want to say, has Donald Trump said things that you're kind of like rolling his eyes at, or has he said things that are completely out of touch or shows his age? Yeah. No, I'm not making excuses for that. But you placing blame on the president for how the certain group of citizens in your city are behaving and the things they're doing is just a way of not doing anything. Because as much as you disagree with the president, he was willing to send the National Guard out to these areas of the protesting, had a lot of looting and violence and things like that happening. They didn't want that, which to me was just asinine, because if it would have been Barack Obama sending you the National Guards to help maintain order and keep safety and give the police on the ground a little bit of relief, he would have accepted it because it came from a Democrat. And that can't be the reason why you do or do not accept help. Because think about this. You complain about the police department. You complain about brutality, and you're going to have the police department have to cover these riots and these protests every day. Guys have got to be getting burnt out now.
Oh, yeah.
The shifts are long. You know, the protesters go home. The police have to go. The officers have to go fill out reports. You know, like, it's got to be the point where fatigue starts setting in. Guys start making bad decisions because they're tired.
Yeah.
They're frustrated. And having the National Guard there just for support, I think, would be a great thing, because we're at a point where we can't agree. And for every positive, peaceful protester, when you start seeing these groups that attack, these parasites that attach themselves to your cause and burn down a building or attack a civilian or whatever, I would think if I was protesting to save my argument, I would leave.
Right.
If I'm marching and saying that I want equal rights and I want to feel safe under the police and I want qualified immunity removed, right? Maybe that's what I'm protesting.
Yeah.
And while I'm protesting and I'm marching the streets, somebody veers off of my group with a bat and starts smashing windows. I'm stopping at that moment. That's not what I'm about. That's not what we're about. We're leaving, and we'll figure out another way. If that happened, if the protesters, when they saw the violence happening, it's not just yelling, hey, don't do that.
Yeah.
You need to take a stand too, because your message is gone at that point. No one's going to care what articulate reason I have to speak.
You're right. You come down pretty strongly on the side of MLK's type of demonstrating, correct?
Yeah, that's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
Because it's not let's think about the real OGs of the protest. They were doing this while they were getting spit on, bottles thrown at them, dogs released on them, fire hoses. You understand?
Yeah,
it was I don't want to say fashionable, but no one was getting in trouble for taking a hose and releasing a German Shepherd and taking a billy club and hitting a protester.
That's right.
And we never saw Martin Luther King grab a bat. We never saw the whole thing was, we're here in peace. And that's why that message still means something.
Right. I agree with you. I have a couple questions. I forget, was the National Guard sent into Ferguson? Did President Obama do that?
I'm trying to remember off the top of my head.
I can't remember either.
I want to say.
And I think they did. I don't know.
Yeah.
The other question I have is, it always seemed like one of the big sort of solutions to this problem was to have the police force look more like the population they were serving. And there's a lot of African-American police officers, police leaders, police chiefs, police commissioners, police and mayors. Why didn't that make the difference? What do you think?
Well, I think a lot of that has to do with, you don't necessarily have to be white.
Uh-oh. Hang on. Slow your roll. You're breaking up on me.
Oh, shoot. I really want to hear what he had to say. Okay, so according to Mary T. Wells, the National Guard did go to Ferguson. You want to hang up and start again, Susan, maybe? Robo-TYRUS. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Hey,
I said,
TYRUS?
Can you hear me?
Nope, we didn't hear a damn thing.
Yep.
But apparently we did get some information.
Okay.
So we have a little bit of feedback too. Can you turn your phone down just a little bit more?
Yep.
Apparently,
I'm about 2 seconds from home base. So.
Apparently, President Obama did send the National Guard into Ferguson, or the state called it, or whatever. So that did happen, apparently. But go ahead, say it again. Why not?
You don't necessarily have to be white to get caught up in the systemic system. You can be, because we're all different individuals, and you become a cop to protect and serve, and you are training in an environment, or you're training in, and then you're put into the city, or you're put into a tough neighborhood, and just because you're African American doesn't mean you can't succumb to the same mindset, the same way of thinking when it's being passed down. To me, I almost feel like it's cultural.
Yeah.
With the police department and poor neighborhoods. You see the same type of behaviors towards poor, white trash neighborhoods by the police department, and it's like passed down from group to group to generation to generation. How you deal with this group, how you deal with this one. They probably did it. Like things like that way of thinking and that way of is passed down. And there's a thing where we all tend to fall in line with the group we're in.
Well, sure.
It's not always, it's such an ignorant thing to say, just because a cop's black, he's not going to see things the same way as his fellow officer who has seen the wrong ends of the society in this neighborhood. He might think the exact same way. It's not about whether he's a white cop or not, or he's a black cop or an Asian cop, as we saw in George Floyd. There was an Asian cop standing there while he was being murdered. It's about the mindset and the way they deal with things and how it's more acceptable. You can get away with putting 2 slugs in a brother's back opposed to if you would have shot the businessman for not doing the same thing. It's so easy to make it about race because it's not what it's about. It's about with how they're dealing with poor people, honestly. I mean, but
what is that? Hold on a second, Tyler.
But that's not me.
Oh, that must be my computer. There we go. Okay, go.
That ain't me.
Wild.
But
so go ahead.
It's frustrating when they're like, well, black cops do it too. Yeah, because and you have to also look at the other side of it. When you are in a neighborhood and you're trying, as a police officer, as a detective, you're trying to solve a murder, and you go up to the people in the neighborhood, and what'd you see? I ain't see nothing.
Right.
The frustration that builds between the police department and the neighborhood, that they're not going to be supported. Like, they're trying to get a murderer off your street, and I ain't no snitch.
Right.
Snitches get stitches. If that's the mindset, if that's the cultural mindset that we've had built up over the last couple of generations with the police department, it starts on both ends. Like, we have to want our neighborhoods clean. We have to want our neighborhoods safe. Like, Hollywood's just as guilty too. Every movie you see, the only time Law and Order is ever carried out is if the cop's bad.
Right. Yeah.
Brutal injustice, the cop's bad. Whenever he's a good cop, he can't do anything, can't arrest anybody, I'm afraid to speak up. It's the same mindset. And every neighborhood is gangsters and they wear do-rags and nobody, and fuck the police is the mindset. So when you have that mindset, and the other mindset is we're having to go into the concrete jungle and deal with people who want to see us dead or shot or hurt, bad things are going to happen. So that's just the way of thinking has to change, and our neighborhoods have to become neighborhoods again.
Right.
We have to.
So is it
put more honor in?
Is it an educational thing? Is there a way to sort of build it?
I think it has a lot to do with it. I also think it has a lot to do with changing our mindsets in the neighborhood. Where we have to look at if somebody's doing wrong in our neighborhood, he's got to go. When the police catch a murderer, if they catch a rapist, we testify. You know what I'm saying? Like, you do things in your community to improve your community, and that's on us.
Yeah. Yep.
But that doesn't take off the hook the fact that a police officer, you got to know to do better when you're in a tough situation, or have the strength to do what not anyone can really do anymore. I need help. I need backup. I've lost control of this situation. I'm stepping back. Because everyone wants to solve it themselves. Everyone's a hero. And a lot of times they make a lot of bad decisions instead of saying the situation's out of control. I'm stepping back.
Right.
I need help. So it's a lot of work that has to be done, and it will not be solved in one episode of a news talk show.
Somebody asked a great question on my stream here, and they said, when we look back at this time in 5 years, what are we going to think about it? Both in terms of the political unrest and the COVID. I mean, we're just going to be sort of shaking our head at our behavior. What do you think we're going to think 5 years from now?
What do you think we're going to think 5 years from now?
Are you there?
Yeah.
Are you there?
What is up?
Dr. Drew.
Right
now. Sorry, 1 second.
Put your earbuds in.
Today's not Wednesday.
I know. My wife's like, today, what are you doing?
We moved it.
I've been caught. I'm in my truck. But it's Dr. Drew, honey. I can explain. Oh, sorry.
Why
I can explain everything.
It's all right. We can't see her.
Hey, he means nothing to me. He means nothing to me. You know you mean something to me. I'm not hiding in my phone.
Hey, Tyrus.
Yeah.
Can you promote something today?
Yeah, what do you want me to promote?
You were going to talk. You're having a fundraiser for a friend.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I am?
Yeah. Aren't you ready?
Nobody told me.
It was in the news. I Google it.
What are you talking about?
Dan Rodimer.
No, I'm serious.
Seriously?
He thinks you're having a fundraiser
He
for
said
him.
what?
Somebody Googled it.
You've
Dan
gotta
said
be kidding me.
you have a fundraiser for him. Oh, that's funny.
Okay, well, we're not promoting that. We're not promoting nothing.
You've got to be kidding me. First of all, I work for Fox News, and we don't promote anyone politically.
Right.
Okay,
So,
I'll have my manager send the link.
Why in the blue hell would I be throwing a fundraiser for somebody?
That's crazy. Then I'll have to find out what my manager saw, because she saw it. So
Yeah.
okay, well, we won't promote it then.
Dan wouldn't even think. Yeah, because that would never happen. And if he did something like that, he's got an ass whooping coming his way of epic proportions.
All right, Tyrus, I'm going to wrap it up.
I can't even if he had an event. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if he had an event, and as much as I love Dan, I'm sure there's a miscommunication. I couldn't even be there. As much as I would want you to support him, and I think he does a great job, but I can't do anything. Like, that's one thing about working in the news industry. You should not promote either side.
True that.
As best you can.
True that.
Dr. Drew, real quick, off subject. How do I get this over with the wife? She thinks I'm hiding in my car talking to you on the phone. So,
oh no.
She has to.
Tape.
Yeah, you can show her the evidence. I can speak to her if you want.
I'll send her the link right now.
You would send her the link. She has to learn to trust you, and we can talk more about that at another time.
Sounds good.
It's
gonna be an interesting dinner.
All right, Tyrus, thanks for swinging by. And let's say,
all right, man.
All right, we'll talk soon.
All right, bye.
See ya. Bye. That was fun.
I wish there was no feedback, though.
I know. That's why I was sort of wrapping up, because it was very distracting. All right. So here we go. We're going to wrap up the night. I'm looking at your guys.
I screwed up the schedule with Tyrus this week. We asked Dr. Drew to Wednesdays because it's a strong question day, and we're going to set that as the day. But he called me last minute today, and I was,
good.
I wasn't organized. What can I say?
Leopold, I see your comments there, and again, good for you for questioning and probing and looking at the data. It's all good. That's the discourse that will lead us towards the truth. I just don't see Leopold. So the airplane is recirculated every 3 minutes or 2 minutes, something like that. I think it's good evidence that aerosols don't spread the virus. There's almost no transmission on planes. The only transmission I know of is a woman who had it on the plane, did not transmit it to anyone except one person who took her mask off in the bathroom and got it there. So with the mask, which block the droplet, but not the aerosols, which don't seem to transmit, I think your plane is your best evidence that it's very, very unlikely. Flight attendants aren't getting sick. Pilots aren't getting sick. I have flown a bunch, not getting sick. I know of almost no cases of airplane transmission, except this one I know where this woman was documented having gotten it in a bathroom, plane bathroom. Don't take your mask off at any time while you're flying. It's the bottom line. And, was that an aerosol in the bathroom? Probably not. It was, she walked right in after somebody else. That's probably droplet.
Somebody asked if I'm a scam magnet. Pretty much.
What was the scam we forgot to tell them about yesterday? There was another one we had been through and I'd forgotten about. Oh, the one where my email was hacked. And they sent out messages to my entire contact list that I was stuck in Cyprus. And literally, if you want to know how gullible...
But this was a long time ago, and when people didn't realize that their email could get hacked.
But how gullible people are. It said, I need help. I need some money to get out of here. I'm sorry to call you and bother you, but I really need something. I had calls at 5. This happened at like midnight, and at 5 in the morning, I was getting calls from people going, "Hey, man, I got your back," whatever. People who I'd spoken to that night. How did I go from talking to you from Pasadena to in a jail or whatever this alleged situation was in Cyprus since we spoke at 8 o'clock? It's just unbelievable that people are like, "Oh, okay."
My phone rings all day long.
That is confirmation bias, everyone. You aren't thinking about stuff.
I have to change my phone line number because it rings all day long, and I just pick up the phone and hang it up. I don't even say hello because nobody calls me on that phone. I just pick it up. Sometimes I'll sit and wait, see if anybody answers, and then I hang up.
George Clark, will COVID still be around to some degree 5 years in the future? I think it will. I think it will still be here. It just will be at a very, very low level, which is why this notion in the state of California that we're going to eliminate it entirely is a insane notion. So we'll see.
Somebody asked if it's going to be mandatory to get the vaccine. At the beginning of this whole thing, we were all thinking that you're going to have to wear a bracelet or something to prove that you have had the vaccine, so you could go in public. Remember that? And then we're going to track each other on our cell phones.
That's kind of going to happen, I think, something like that. Greg Miller says, make sure you turn left on the plane. And what he's referencing is the fact that when we were on our last flight, we were on a 777, and we were on a very nice first class section. And Adam called me while I was sitting there, and he goes, "What are you doing?" I go, "I'm on a plane." And he goes, "Did you turn left?" And I said, "Yeah, I did." He started screaming, "Turn left!"
You turned left. Your wife isn't.
I haven't turned left in years. Those are the best friends.
He said nice things about me.
Good. All right, listen, we got to wrap this thing up. Appreciate you guys being here today, as always. Are we going to try to do it again? Oh, you see a doggy?
Yeah.
What dog did they say?
Pop up.
Must have. Rex is on the ground here. Right, Rex? Yep. Are we going to try to do this tomorrow, or we...
He's got to run off to foxla.com/live at 7 p.m. Pacific with Alex Michelson.
Yes, I do.
If you want some hard news in L.A.
Yeah, I haven't seen our rundown for today yet. Let me see if no, not out yet, so I can tell you what we're going to talk about.
We need to get those nail salons open.
I know.
Breaking my heart.
Uh-huh. Okay, you guys. Leopold, the questions were good. I'm not putting up with anything. The questions are good. Always good to challenge. That's how you expand your knowledge. That's how you expand things, make you think about things. Human brains left to their own devices spiral in one place. They don't expand. They don't grow. How do you protect yourself from typhus or a plague? If you're traveling, there should be no risk. The biggest risk is in Los Angeles. Avoid fleas. Fleas. And you have to make sure the animals you touch don't have fleas and that those animals aren't exposed to rodent fleas. So that's how you prevent yourself.
So on Tuesday, I think, let me double check. We have Kelly Victory.
Okay.
Double check, though. It might end up being Friday. Let me see. She just responded. Yes. And during the weekend, we'll just be doing some Dr. Drew and you live from our other house.
Some other location. Okay.
It's his birthday tomorrow.
I know. Am I doing something here tomorrow? Are you still here?
We're not doing anything on your birthday tomorrow.
Okay.
Unless you really want to, but I don't think we should. I mean, do you?
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy, what did I get myself? It would be better if we celebrate your birthday on Saturday with your fans.
I agree. So we will not do something tomorrow. We will try to do something on Saturday. I'm pulling it off the calendar right now, so I don't worry about that.
And we have a new sponsor, Better Life Recovery.
Another very good program. I've spoken to the physicians there. It's a very good program. So something, if you're looking for treatment in that area, it's a good idea. Susan, anything else from your standpoint?
Nope.
All right. Thank you all for being here, and we will see you on Saturday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. According to SAMHSA's National Survey on Drug Use and Health, approximately 20.3 million people above the age 12 suffer from substance use disorder. Incredible. The disease of addiction takes an average of 130 Americans every day. Sadly, the opioid crisis, which many consider the worst pandemic of our time, has been even further perpetuated by the spread of COVID-19. Since the start of the coronavirus outbreak, drug overdoses have increased by 18%. Factors like economic stress and social isolation have led to increased depression and unnecessary deaths. A Better Life Recovery is a premier addiction treatment center in Southern California, offering one of the most highly regarded and comprehensive addiction treatment programs in the United States. Dedicated to helping its clients achieve complete inner and outer transformation, they offer a 45 to 90-day program custom tailored to meet the needs of each individual client. Long-term is the way to go. Many of A Better Life's clients elect to stay up to 9 months to receive additional support. A Better Life Recovery will do whatever it takes for as long as it takes to ensure the success of every client. Are you ready for a better life? Go to abetterliferecovery.com or call 866-581-4401 now.